guys are probably getting really tired of seeing these videos in the truck, and to be honest with you, I'm looking forward to being out in the sunshine here. Had a great day yesterday out in the sunshine. Was on a client property, and of course we're not focused on shooting videos for our social media accounts when we're on these client properties. So we took advantage of the weather, great parcel, and had time today, and couldn't beat the raindrops. And as you can see now, it's dark, and it's 1 to 3 inches of rain. I was told that we are looking at getting here in mid-Michigan, but the reason that I'm coming to you in the shelter inside the rain, it kind of fits to the video that I was had allotted to do this week anyway. And what this pertains to is how rain and that can affect the food plots, and kind of when to plant and what to plant, and going into the we're in the middle of May now, creeping up on the end of May, and staring down the barrel of Memorial Day. And a lot of calls start surfacing this time of the year about folks just not wanting to make the wrong step on their food plot decisions, and how that ties into it. Now, if you follow along with a lot of the stuff that I promote and the videos that we put out, you'll see that I'm not a huge summertime food plot guy. I never have been over the years, but even more so now. And that is kind of a subject that ties to areas, though it's a really per area based topic. And so that's something that we're going to touch on this evening, is just knowing. You have to start by knowing the deer numbers and what to implement, where to implement it, how to implement it, so it sets up, it doesn't set you up for failure going into the rest of the year, going into the hunting season, and what you're doing with the food plot, and why you're planning the food plot to begin with. So to me, as you know, and the business shows, and everything ties into that, as far as the planning the food plot, and the planning of the food plot, and the planning of why they're there, really digging deep on what your goals are. It's the basis of my analysis package, and the basis of the entire business, the entire part of the design of the business. So how does that tie into food plots? Food plots it's a huge timing issue, for number one. It's so you start with the design. You got to make sure they're in the right spots, like we've always talked, and you've heard me preach time and time again. 2 is knowing the do's and don'ts of when to plant it in the rain. What are you looking at? Spring of the year is just opposite, obviously, as the fall plantings. And the reason that I say just opposite is, yes, it's a food plot. Yes, it's obviously you're creating tonnage, and you're getting the feed out there for the deer. But they have 2 totally different platforms and 2 totally different endpoints and goals. The food plot themselves, you might not have, as the hunter may not have that end goal, but the outcome of your food plot and the reason of your food plot surely does. So spring planning, 1, knowing the number of deer that are in your area, and what you're actually doing by planning those food plots. What are you gaining? What are you lacking? Is it worth planting it? How to go about doing that. So in most cases, now this varies the further you go north, but we're going to tie in a topic here that I think a lot of folks haven't touched on, and this is something that I'm actually visiting a property here coming up on in first week of November in Wisconsin. Is the farther north you go, the more or the less the deer numbers are. So in reality, in thought process, we all think that we are benefiting the deer herd by giving them more to eat. The farther you go north, the more that case can be argued, successfully argued. because it's a totally different world than it is down here. You know, the ground is just an issue alone. I'm trying to plant a food plot, let alone trying to give the deer something to eat other than, you know, cedar and not much there. You know, the browse that they are able to get. And a lot of these places obviously haven't been maintained or habitat approved, or, you know, so it's not a lot of browse to begin with. And it's sad because those deer in the northern climates really rely on that. You know, here from mid-Michigan all the way across the pond going into Wisconsin, you know, 90% of a deer, 85%, 95%, 80 to 90% of a deer's intake is woody browse, and that's a huge overlooked situation, as we've talked. But as you go further north, you have to watch creating those plots, especially like the upper peninsula of Michigan's perfect example. You have to watch where those plots are and how much attraction you're getting to those plots. And the reason I say that is the further you go north, there's some big issues going on right now with some predator. Sadly, the deer population, the mature level of the deer population had finally got to a point, like in our upper peninsula of Michigan, that things were really starting to happen, and for the good. And now the old predator, the old wolf, has came in and is really putting a damper on the success of that you know, outlook. So when you're planting these food plots down here, we have to worry about, are we going to get them to grow? Are we going to compete with you know, the agricultural, the alfalfa? Up there, you have to really take that into thought process about how many deer you're jamming into one spot on these small plots, and are you doing them harm, a disservice, by creating more food in one location, and how that is going to affect, or how that's going to have an outcome as far as the predator. And it's a huge issue. It's a big topic right now. So I'm not going to go down the road of whether you believe that the wolves are doing the damage that they are or not. I'm here to tell you that they are, and when you start placing those food plots, the stronger you make them, and it doesn't have to be very much. I'm talking rye in the upper peninsula. You go the upper peninsula, go into Wisconsin, where I'm heading the first week of November. Or the first week of June here. I'm sorry. It's a huge issue. So got to really make sure about, you know, bedding areas, doe bedding areas, how that relates to those. So down here, we're worried about what we're feeding them and nutrition. Up there, you're worried about keeping them alive. So the spring of the year is a great time to get the planting of the food plots done. But one thing I want to stress, guys, is it's always a heated topic, and I'm not here to make a debate, but I'm here to tell you what my experiences are. I do this for a living, and what I see. And like I've said in the past, and I'll say it again, I'm not the greatest food plot guy in the world. I'll tell you that. I'm still learning things to make things grow. I do not have a green thumb, but I'm here to tell you that I know what works and what doesn't, as far as money and how money gets you to the end goal, and on these properties, and how to make you successful going into the fall of the year. So that ties into, like we said, where they're at and what you have to have growing in those, and it's all a tonnage game. Now, when to plant pertaining to the rain is this time of the year. You have to watch, really have to watch the overabundance of rain. A lot of guys this weekend are going to be in trouble because we're waiting. It's a cabin fever issue is what it is. We all want to get that nutrition out there for the deer. We all believe, we've all been told for years and years and years that the food value, you know, during the lactation of the does, when they're having these fawn, it's a huge deal. You got to give them enough to eat. Fact of the matter is, guys, they have 10 times more food than what they need right now, and to make healthy deer, healthy does, make healthy fawns this time of the year, everything that they touch within arm's reach, you know, is green, and your food plot is doing very, very little. Very little. I mean, it's great to have a maintained food plot. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing more beautiful than a clover plot that's, you know, over ankle deep, knee deep, and it just shines. I love them too. Everybody loves to see them, but don't get caught into a trap of believing that you are keeping, especially now I'm talking small parcels, and my interpretation of small parcel, like I said, is pretty large as far as acreage in everybody else's book, but you're not creating, it's not a make or break deal with the health of these deer, does or bucks. They're getting way more than what they have. Your goal is to keep the money. My goal is to help you do this, is to keep that money in your pocket for the right time. This time of the year, I'd rather see money being spent, and this is something that I coach the guys, the property owners into, and really work with them, consult them on, is this time of the year, one, the rain. Don't get caught in this trap right here where you end up going down the road of getting, we all got cabin fever, like I said, and all of a sudden you want to get this seed in the ground, and now you've got seed in the ground, and most food plots aren't drained properly. We're not there, we're not ag farmers, we're not putting tile in these food plots, and the next thing you know, most of them are light sandy soil to begin with, but if you are in something that's got a little heavier area or heavier loam, and this happens, you really hope that you have sandy loam, because if you get an inch or two of rain over a 2 or 3 week period, when you get it in 36 hours or 42 hours, or 48 hours, that's a different situation. Your seed's going to rot. It's not going to perform. Hopefully, if you planted these spring plots, you're planting rye or buckwheat, and you're not throwing a bunch of money into clover, and because it will rot, and it's going to rot after this, in our area, not all across the country, of course, but at that point you got to put yourself in kind of a position of what it's doing and how to do that. Now, what I've always going back to the grandfather's old saying, we should all really wait until to get the most bang for your dollar, I guess you could say, and make the most impact if you're going to plant spring plots after or around Memorial Day weekend. 95% of the time, 90% of the time, you're out of that window of frost, and then things are starting to slow down. You get out of the May showers, and April showers and May flowers, that whole deal, but this time of the year, and it seems like the last couple of years here in mid-Michigan and a lot of client properties, especially like in Illinois, last year was just, everything was underwater for months and months and months, and it doesn't do anything to the deer, for the deer, if it's a foot underwater, if it's an inch underwater, it's not doing anything. So really use some caution there, and really search your forecast, look at your weather. As hard as you study the weather when it's during hunting season, I really encourage you to really reach out and study what you've got going on. So feel free to reach out. We will go from there. The folks that are out in Wisconsin, looking forward to seeing you here in a couple of weeks. We've got 3-4 other projects here to do in Michigan, and before then, and creeping up on Memorial Day weekend. So anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out, guys. Like I said, just kind of watch the weather, don't float your plots, and we will hopefully have some the sunshine dries us out here, and everybody's hopefully doesn't lose a bunch of money here, and hopefully a bunch of damage with the storms coming. So stay safe. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks, guys.